Hello, kinship families from Catholic Charities. My name is Sarah, and today we're going to be talking about a few things surrounding reading at home. So there's a lot in that, and at the very end, we're going to be talking about a free website that I already have up on the screen. So we're going to get into that, and it's a great free resource. But first, we're going to be talking about reading at home. First, the importance. Second, simple, easy, cheap tricks that you can use. And the reason we're wanting to do this is because it's so important for kids to be reading at home. A little bit of background about me. I am a former teacher, so I was a second grade teacher, and then I became an instructional coach and a literacy coach. So my entire job was around how can we help kids foster a love of reading, an excitement for reading, and get them to the reading levels that they need to be at. And so much of that, unfortunately, is placed on whoever the parent or guardian or family is who are taking care of these kids. The fostering the love of reading has to come at home because there's just not enough time in the school day and not enough individual attention. And I don't say this to put a lot of pressure on you or to make you nervous. We're going to talk through a few very easy things you can do. But it is important. We're seeing kids coming to classes and grades at much lower reading levels than, 10 years, 20 years ago. And so we've got to figure out how we can foster a love of reading, and that needs to happen at home. So we're going to talk about that. Why is it important that kids are reading at home? Well, first of all, the school day, while it seems super long, there is so much content that any reading that's typically done is individual reading, or it's group reading of a shared text. And that's less than ideal because kids don't really get to self-select that book. They might not like it. It's sort of stressful reading on the spot. And when they're doing individual reading, teachers can't make sure they're comprehending the same way that whoever is reading with these sweeties at home can. When you're reading with a child, you can really bond with them. You can get them excited about the books and the stories, and you can help foster that love. So it's important that we're reading at home. And if you haven't heard it from teachers yet, the magic number is 30 minutes a day. Now that's sort of a baseline. That's where kids need to be in order to maintain and slightly elevate their reading levels. But kids should be reading every day. Now when I say kids should be reading, that sort of is almost simplified because they don't have to just be reading. They could also be listening to books, having you read aloud or using the free resource that I'm about to show you can be just as beneficial for kids because reading is actually sort of two different pieces. There's the can they make meaning of text, meaning can they see the letters on a page, understand that those letters are connected to sounds, sound out a word, and read. But then there's comprehension. Can they understand what those words are saying? And listening to books is almost more beneficial for comprehension because the stress of trying to guess the sounds isn't there, so they can just enjoy the story. So it's important that we talk about reading aloud. And there is no end time when a child is old enough that you don't read to them. It is important to maintain reading to your child basically until they take off on their own with a love of reading. So I encouraged parents to read aloud to kids in 4th and 5th grade, even though those kids were way, way, way advanced and were already capable of reading on their own. It's because we want to foster that love and joy of reading. And that's best when with a parent or guardian or someone they care about. So the importance of reading at home. First, of course, there's the academic piece. I'm afraid to be a little bit negative, but I have to drop a tiny bit of a truth bomb. In third grade, there's a shift in the curriculum that is taught in schools. We go from a system of teaching children to read in preschool, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. It's all about teaching kids how to read, sort of that first prong, how to read. Then in third grade, we sort of do this switch, assuming that kids can read, and we switch from learning to read to reading to learn. So they learn their social studies, their science, their math from reading in a textbook, or they learn about nonfiction by reading in a textbook. So it's important that we are always working to get kids up to reading level, because their success in those grade levels is dependent on them being able to read the texts that the teacher is assigning. So we always want to be pushing for reading because of academics, but we also want to foster a love of reading. When we do that, that means that your child is more likely to excel in school. They're more likely to turn toward resources to learn more about things they're interested in. They're more likely to pass and graduate from high school and more likely to go on to college or a secondary school or a training program if they have any sort of passion for reading. So we know it's important. Finally, relationship building. Sharing a good book for especially a smaller child to be able to cuddle and curl up with someone that's important to them. It releases amazing neurotransmitters in their brain that makes them feel safe, loved, happy, secure when they are being cuddled and reading a story. It's the proximity, it's the excitement of the book. It's powerful and it's important. So we're going to talk about why it's important to be reading aloud in just a moment. And in fact, I'll do another video with reading aloud tips for youngsters, for kids who are pre-literacy. But we're also going to talk about what kids should be reading at home, because I get it. It is hard to find good books. There are a plethora of them out there, but right now it's COVID. It's hard to go to a library. It might be hard to get to a library, and people are busy. Books can be expensive, so if you can't get to the library, how are you supposed to find them? Also, kids who are voracious readers will go through the books so quickly. So it's important that you have books on hand that they might enjoy. That's one of the keys. Books that kids enjoy. Both parties should enjoy reading a book when you're reading aloud. That shows through. If you are reading a book to your child that you are not enjoying, they're going to pick up on that. So it's fair for you to also enjoy reading the books at home. So if you're having a hard time with the books you have at home, either you don't want to read them, the child doesn't want to read them, and you don't really have access to resources, what can you do? Well, first of all, there's a lot of text at home, even if it's not a book. I would recommend that my students, when they said they had nothing to read, I would say, go into the pantry and grab a cereal box. Are you really going to tell me that there's nothing on the back of a cereal box, especially for a children's cereal that kids can read? There's fun games, there's activities. So we would talk about all the places that there's text at home. It doesn't have to be a book. Kids can even read, instruction manuals. If they are complaining that they have nothing to read, you can find so much text. But we're going to talk about a resource right now that's sort of better than all of that. So if you want to be reading aloud to your child, or you want them to sort of be partner reading, and you don't have books, or maybe you don't have time, maybe you're busy, and that's fine. Maybe you're working and you want your child to be listening to books. Well, there's a free resource, absolutely free. You don't need to create a membership login or anything like that. And it's the resource that's up on the screen right now. It's called Online, and the web address is www.storylineonline.net, and I'll put that in the description of the video. But this is a wonderful resource. So while you're not reading to your child, someone else can be, and you can either share in that experience with them, you can listen with them and be close, and you can talk about what you're listening to, or you don't even have to be home. Storyline Online is a free website where they have celebrities and other people of import who are reading books. Now, that's not anything revolutionary. You could find those similar kinds of things on YouTube. But what we have here that we're looking at on the screen is we have tons of amazing, phenomenal books that I would read in my classroom. Like Snapsy the Alligator was a classroom favorite. And once you start playing these videos, the visuals are incredible. It zooms in really close to the book. You see the animation and the books come alive. The words are the text, the words on the page, the text is very noticeable. It is easy for children to follow along, and the production value is just, it's unparalleled. And I'm not the most technologically advanced, so I've had a hard time getting these to play while trying to film this. So you might just have to take my word for it, but I'm going to go into Snapsy the Alligator. Actually, first, let me just show you around a little bit. So remember, the web address is www.storylineonline.net. You can go to all books, you can learn more about it, but really, you just have to go to this one main page. There are all kinds of books here. We see the celebrated Black stories, November featured videos, just added. Oh my goodness. I have to tell you, I've read and used most of these books in some sort of lesson planning that I've done recently. And then so many favorites that I'm sure you might recognize some of them, like Brave Irene and A Bad Case of Stripes. So these are excellent quality, but let's go into one of them. All you have to do is click on it. You will need to make sure that your device has access to audio. And I had to close out of that. You might have to as well. Or it didn't save my selection from before. But you can click how you'd like to watch it. YouTube is just fine. And let's see if this works for us.
Welcome to Storyline. I will be reading stories. Snap the alligator wasn't feeling like himself. His feet felt draggy, his skin felt baggy, his tail would swish this way and that, and worst of all, his big jaw wouldn't snap. This
All right, I'll pause it right there. We're not going to watch the whole thing. I just wanted to give you a sense of the production quality. The benefit to listening to books like this, as I said before, is that kids are still being exposed to comprehension building skills. They're learning about characters, setting, plot. They're learning about different story arcs. They'll be able to make connections to other things that they're reading and learning about. They're being exposed to phenomenal vocabulary. Most picture books that are written at a second or third grade reading level have fourth and fifth grade vocabulary just sort of strewn in, and it is wonderful. So this is a free tool that would help to expand your library collection that you have at your home. And it's all of the material in there is appropriate. So if you're having a hard time getting a child in your home to read, maybe go to StorylineOnline.net and they'll be willing to listen. And once again, listening to read alouds is almost just as good as kids reading aloud themselves. And in some ways, if they're a struggling reader, it's better for building comprehension skills. Finally, I'm about to say a few things that are slightly controversial, but as a teacher, I would tell my families who said, I can't get my child to read anything. I would just tell them to turn on the TV, turn off the volume, and put on the captions. Kids who are at a reading level that's second grade or third grade and beyond, they should be able to watch their shows. So let's say your child enjoys, I don't know, SpongeBob SquarePants. The dialogue in that comes quickly, so it might take them a while to get used to it. But especially with the pictures in the background and familiar story arcs, they'll be able to read the captions and make meaning. And that's exactly what reading is. So if nothing else works, please consider just turning on the TV, turning off the volume, completely muting it, and having the kids read the captions. It works just as well, and I find that kids are least likely to fight me when that's the method I try and use to get them to read at home. That's not forever. Once they're more confident and comfortable in their reading, we'll help them. Teachers will help introduce them to books that they might like. But it's all about getting kids comfortable with reading, getting them into the routine of reading, getting them into the routine of turning toward books. So, in summation, please consider reading at home with your child. And if you don't have texts, please consider StorylineOnline.net. Please consider, a TV and volume off, but the words, the captions that they can read at the bottom, and really any books that your child likes. If they want to read the same book 100 times, wonderful. If they want to read graphic novels, it has text on it, great. Comics, great. The back of the cereal box, great. The back of movies, great. Anything that has text that they are willing to read is wonderful. Thank you so much for listening. I will be coming out with a few more videos to help. And if you have any questions, please speak to Carrie, and they can get in touch with me. And I hope that you enjoy StorylineOnline.net. Thanks, everyone.